いいかね、よく聞いてほしい。君は、自分が一日でどれだけの言葉を口にし、そして心の中でつぶやいているか、考えたことはあるだろうか。その数えきれないほどの言葉の一粒一粒に、君の未来を、君の世界を、根底から作り変えてしまうほどの、神聖な力が宿っているとしたら、君はどう思うだろう。わしらの賢明な祖先は、そのことを知っていた。言葉には魂が宿り、現実を動かす。それを、敬意を込めて言霊と呼んだのだよ。君が発する。その声、その響きは、単なる空気の振動ではない。それは、君の魂の現れであり、宇宙に放たれる、一つの創造のエネルギーなのだ。ほら、美しい言葉をかけた水は美しい結晶となり、汚い言葉を浴びせた水は結晶が崩れるという話があるだろう。君の身体の7割近くは、その水でできているのだよ。君は毎日、自分自身の身体に、どんな言葉を、どんな結晶模様を描きかけているだろうかね。では、君は今日、どんな言霊を、この世界に放っただろうか。まるで、無有病者のように、自らの幸運を遠ざける言葉を無意識につぶやきながら、人生という道を歩いてはいないかね。君がふと漏らすわ。疲れたという一言、鏡の前でつく、深いため息、心の中で繰り返すどうせ自分なんてという、か細いつぶやき、それらが、君の知らないうちに、君の幸運の芽を摘み、人生という名の美しい庭に、固く、冷たい土を敷き詰めてしまっているのかもしれないとしたら、それは、君のせいではないのだよ。ただ、君が持つ、その偉大な力の本当の使い方を、これまで誰も、真剣に教えてはくれなかった。ただ、それだけのことなのだ。今日は君を叱りに来たのではない。無理に変えようというのでもない。ただ、君が本来持っている素晴らしい力に、一緒に気づいていこうじゃないか。という、魂からのお誘いなのだよ。わしも若い頃は、この力に気づかず、無駄な力みや嘆きで、随分と遠回りをしたものだ。だが、ある時、高熊山の岩窟で、この世のすべてのものが神の息吹であり、言葉によってつながっていると悟ったのだ。その時の、魂が震えるような喜びを、君にも味わってほしいのだ。だから、聞きなさい。絶望するには、まだ早い。その硬い土を、君自身の言葉の力で、ふかふかの、花咲き乱れる豊かな土壌へと、変えることができるのだ。その鎖は、君自身の力で、君自身の言葉で、愛をもって断ち切ることができる。今日は、そのための、最も確かで、神聖な奥義を、君に、魂を込めて授けようと思う。わしは出口を仁三郎という男だよ。ある者はわしを大洞吹きと呼び、ある者は大本教の聖子と崇め、またある者は国家を転覆させようとした大悪人と罵った。世間の評価など、風に舞う塵のようなものさ。どうでもよいことだ。わしが何者であるかは、さして重要ではない。本当に大切なのは、わしが何を見て、何をつかみ、そして今、何を君に伝えようとしているか、その一点に尽きるのだから。今日、わしが君に語るのは、小手先の慰めや、ありふれた成功法則などではない。わしがこの身をもって体験し、血の滲むような苦難の果てに、獄中の暗闇の中においてさえ、決して揺らぐことのなかった、宇宙の確かな法則そのものだ。これは、君が今抱えている、ありとあらゆる苦悩の根っこにあるものを優しく解きほぐし、君の人生を根底から、まるで昨日まで見ていた景色が冗談であったかのように、劇的に好転させる、神仕組みの奥義なのだよ。だから、どうか、心を静めて聞いてほしい。耳で聞くのではなく、君の魂で、わしの言葉を受け取ってほしい。これから君が、真に幸福になり、運命を自らの手で優しく切り開き、この地上で天国のごとき穏やかな人生を歩みたいと、心の底から願うのであれば、わしがこれから授ける三つの真理を、ただ、素直な心で、日々の暮らしに取り入れてみてほしいのだ。まず、 第一の真理から話そう。冒頭で触れた言霊の真髄についてだ。それは君自身のその口、その舌、その声に秘められた途方もない力に静かに、そして深く目覚めることだ。わしはこう伝えたい。この言霊を心根に優しく刻み唱えてごらんなさい。私たちは言葉というものをあまりにも当たり前のものとして軽んじてしまいがちだ。しかし考えてもごらん。この宇宙は巨大な楽器のようなものだ。そして君が発する言葉の一つ一つはその楽器を奏でる音色なのだよ。君が感謝の言葉を口にすれば宇宙は美しい和音を返し、君が不満の言葉を漏らせば宇宙は不協和音で答える。君は毎日どんな音楽を奏でているだろうかね。そしてな、言葉は君の身体とも深く結びついているのだよ。病は気からというが、その気とは君が日々発している言霊そのものなのだ。怒りや恐れの言葉は君の身体を固くこわばらせ、血の流れを滞らせる。逆に感謝や愛の言葉は身体を心から温め、血の流れを良くし、君が本来持っている素晴らしい自然治癒力を最大限に引き出してくれるのだ。美しい言霊は最高の薬にもなるのだよ。また多くの人々が過去を悔やむ言葉と未来を憂う言葉にあまりにも多くの時間を費やしてしまっている。あの時ああすればよかったという後悔の言霊は、過去というもはや変えられぬものに魂を縛り付け、これからどうなってしまうのだろうという不安の言霊は、まだこの未来という幻に現在のエネルギーを吸い取らせてしまう。どちらも今この瞬間を生きるという最も尊い営みをないがしろにする悲しい言霊なのだ。時には他人から心ない言葉を投げかけられることもあるだろう。その時心を乱してはいけないよ。その言葉は君の価値を何一つ傷つけるものではない。それはその言葉を発した人の魂の叫びであり、その人自身の苦しみの表れなのだ。水が泥を引くように君の魂が清らかであれば、その言葉は君を汚すことはない。むしろ心の中でその人のためにこう祈ってあげるのだ。どうかこの人の魂に穏やかな平安が訪れますようにと。それこそが君自身を守る最強の鎧となるのだ。もうやめてみなさい。今日この瞬間から少しずつでいい。やめてみるのだ。そして代わりに神が喜び宇宙が応援したくなるような温かく光に満ちた言葉を意図して意識して心からの思いを込めて口ずさんでみるのじゃ。ありがとう。感謝しています。私はいつも守られている。私は満たされている。私は健やかだ。私ならできる。すべてはきっと良くなる。特にありがとうという言葉は最強の言霊だよ。この言葉はな、過去のどんな辛い出来事さえも学びと成長の糧であったと祝福の光で照らし出すことができる。そして未来にさらなる感謝すべき出来事を磁石のように引き寄せてくれるのだ。過去を癒し未来を作る。それがありがとうという言霊の持つ偉大な力なのだ。実践は難しくない。例えば夜眠る前に今日あった感謝すべきことを3つ小さな紙に書き出してみなさい。そしてそれを声に出してそっと読んでみるのだ。どんなに辛い一日であったとしても探せば必ず感謝の種は見つかるものだ。蛇口をひねれば清らかな水が出ること、今こうして穏やかに息ができること、その当たり前の中にこそ最大の奇跡は隠されているのだから。君が日々発する感謝の言葉はな、君自身と君の世界を祝福する小さな、しかし何よりも尊い祝詞なのだよ。祝詞とは単なるお願い事ではない。神の偉大さをたたえ、宇宙の秩序の美しさを言葉で宣言し、その秩序と自分とを一体化させる神聖な儀式なのだ。だから君がありがとうというとき、君は宇宙の秩序に感謝し、 その調和の一部となっているのだ。わしはな、国家権力という大きな力によって、二度も光の届かない場所に押し込められた。特に二度目の弾圧は、それは厳しいものだった。教団の建物は無残に破壊され、わし自身も大切な仲間たちも人の心の温かさを見失うほどの辛い仕打ちを受けた。肉体は痛み、心は引き裂かれ、普通ならばそこで希望を失い、神を呪い、世を恨んで全てを終えてしまうだろう。だがわしはそうはならなかった。獄中の冷たい独房の中でわしは何をしていたと思うかね。来る日も来る日も神の物語、霊界物語を静かにしかし絶え間なく口述し続けたのだよ。わしの肉体は確かに壁の内側にあった。しかしわしの魂はわしの紡ぐ言霊とともに時空を超え霊界を自由に駆け巡り、未来の世の光の仕組みを次々と描き出していたのだ。わしの口から静かにこぼれる言霊が極斜の冷たい石の壁を温かい光で透かし、わしを絶対の自由の中にいつも置いてくれていたのだ。どうだろうか、わかってくれるかな。言葉の力とはこれほどのものなのだよ。いかなる権力もいかなる逆境も君の魂から静かにしかし確信を持って発せられる真の言霊の前には決してその力を及ぼすことはできないのだ。だから唱えてごらんなさい。朝目が覚めたらまず感謝の言葉を、夜眠りにつく前に今日一日を祝福する言葉を、苦しい時こそそっと胸に手を当てて、すべては良くなるために起きていると自分自身に優しく語りかけてあげるのだ。その一言が暗闇を照らす一本のろうそくの火となり、君の未来を温かく穏やかに照らし出してくれるだろう。次に第二の真理を話そう。これは君の人生で繰り返されるさまざまな問題のその根っこにあるものを優しく解きほぐすための教えだ。心を澄まして聞いてほしい。我よしをそっと手放し、弥勒の世を打ち立ててごらん。我よし、我よしと読む。自分さえ良ければそれでいい。他人を出し抜いてでも自分が得をしたい。人よりも少しでも多く、少しでも上に立ちたい。この誰もが心のどこかに持っている寂しさから来る悲しい心の癖。これが我よしの正体じゃな。この我よしという心はな、一体どこから生まれてくると思うかね。それはな、根源的な恐れから生まれるのだよ。自分は足りない存在だ。このままでは誰からも愛されないのではないか。富や地位を失ったら自分の価値はなくなってしまうのではないか。そんな魂の奥底にある冷たい欠乏感が他人を押しのけてでも何かを奪い取ろうとする寂しい心を生み出すのだ。そしてこの我よしは恐ろしいことに連鎖するのだ。一人の我よしが他人の我よしを誘発し、疑心暗鬼を生み、家庭や職場、社会全体の不和となって広がっていく。その負の連鎖をどこかで断ち切らねばならん。君がその連鎖を断ち切る最初の、そして最も勇気ある一人になるのだよ。ここで間違えてはいけないよ。自分を大切にすること、自分を愛することと我よしは全く違うものだ。真の自己愛とは自分自身の内にある神から授かった神聖な光を敬い慈しむことだ。そして自分の中の神聖を心から敬える者は同じように他者の中にある神聖な光をも自然と敬うことができるようになるのだ。だから我よしを手放すことは自己犠牲をすることではない。むしろ偽物の自分への執着から離れ、本当の神聖な自分に目覚めるための最も尊い道なのだよ。だからそっと手放してみなさい。その自分さえ良ければという寂しく冷たい心の癖を今日から少しずつ手放していくのだ。それは何かを失うことではない。むしろ君を縛り付けていた重たい鎖から君自身を解き放ってあげることなのだ。 そうして初めて、君は何者にも依存しない、本当の魂の自由と真の自立を手にすることができる。そして、代わりに、与える喜び、利他の喜び、他のすべてのものの幸せを、我がことのように願う。温かい心で、君の胸を満たしてごらん。君が誰かに微笑みかければ、その微笑みは宇宙を一周して、いつか君が思いもよらない場所から、温かい光となって帰ってくるのだよ。君が誰かのために祈れば、その祈りは、君自身の魂をも浄化する、聖なる水となるのだ。見返りを求めずに与えたとき、人の心には、何者にも代えがたい、深く穏やかな喜びが満ちるようにできている。これこそが、神が我々の魂に仕組まれた、最も幸福な生き方なのだという証拠だよ。君は、何も持っていなくとも、その笑顔一つ、優しい眼差し一つで、今この瞬間から、世界で最も豊かな与える人になることができるのだ。その究極の実践が、許しだよ。どうしても許せない人がいるかね。その人を憎む心は、君自身を熱い鉄の鎖で縛り付けているようなものだ。無理に許そうとしなくていい。ただ、こう祈ってみてはどうだろう。この人の中にも、神の光がある。今は厚い雲に覆われているだけなのだ。どうか、その光が、再び輝きを取り戻しますようにと。それは、相手のためであると同時に、君自身を憎しみの牢獄から解放するための最も気高い利他行なのだ。許しとは、過去の誰かへの執着を断ち切り、君の人生の船を再び自由な大海原へと解き放つ、君自身への最大の贈り物なのだ。わしを弾圧し、仲間たちを苦しめた人々に対して、わしは個人的な憎しみを抱かなかった。彼らもまた、時代の大きな流れの中で、恐れという我よしの心にとらわれた、哀れな魂であったのだ。わしは、彼らを憎む代わりに、この国の、そして世界の、すべての魂が真に救われることを、ただひたすらに祈ったのだよ。これが、真の豊かさと幸福を、泉のように湧き上がらせる、唯一の、そして最も美しい道なのだよ。わしが夢見た魅力の世とは、どこか遠い未来に現れる、絵空ごとの世界のことではないのだ。それは、誰もが互いを敬い、奪い合う代わりに与え合い、自然の恵みに感謝し、子供たちの笑い声がどこまでも響き渡るような世の中だ。そこでは、病は癒され、争いは消え、誰もが自分の天分を最大限に生かして、創造の喜びに満ちて生きている。それは遠い夢物語ではない。君が我よしを手放す、その一歩から始まる。確かな未来なのだよ。どちらが真の力か、どちらが真の勝利か、もう、わかるだろう。君の人生の主導権を、我よしという小さな影から宇宙全体とつながる広大無辺な愛の心へと取り戻しておやりなさい。そして最後の第三の真理だ。これは君の乾いた魂を優しく潤し、人生に彩りと深く静かな喜びを与えるための最も美しい教えだよ。わしはこう伝えよう。芸術の真に目覚め、万類を愛してごらんなさい。芸術は宗教の母なり、わしが生涯を通じて大切にしてきた言葉だ。なぜわしがこれほどまでに芸術を大切にするか。それはな、芸術に触れ、想像することで、頭でっかちな論理や計算だけではない。魂の奥深くから湧き上がる直感が磨かれるからだ。人生の重要な分かれ道で、どちらに進むべきか。その答えは、誰かが教えてくれるものではない。君の魂が、静かに、しかしはっきりと、教えてくれるようになるのだ。その声を聞き取る力を養うのが、芸術なのだよ。そして、芸術は、特別な場所にあるのではない。君の、日々の営みの中にこそ、芸術はあるのだよ。君が、家族のために心を込めて作る食事。それは愛の芸術だ。君が、心を澄ませて部屋を掃除し、清らかな空間を作り出すこと。 それは調和の芸術だ。君が人と心を込めて対話すること、それもまた魂の芸術なのだ。君の人生そのものを一つのかけがえのない最高傑作として創造していくのだよ。芸術の真とはな、この世界に実は満ち満ちている美と調和に気づき、それに素直に感動する、その心の働きのことなのだ。そしてその感動を今度は自分でも表現してみたいと願う創造の喜びのことなのだ。それは子供のように無心で遊ぶ心を取り戻すことでもある。結果を気にせず、評価を恐れず、ただその瞬間瞬間の創造のプロセスに没頭する。その遊びの中にこそ魂は最も自由に、そして豊かに成長するのだ。道端に咲いている一輪のタンポポの完璧な形と太陽のような黄色にふと心が温かくなったことはないかね。空を茜色に染め上げる夕焼けの言葉にならないほどの美しさに思わず時を忘れて見入ってしまったことはないか。子供の一点の曇りもない笑顔の中にまるで神様がいるかのような清らかな光を感じたことはないかね。それらすべてが芸術なのだよ。宇宙という偉大なる芸術家が作り出した最高の傑作なのだ。この美に感動する心を忘れてしまうと、人の心は次第に乾いていき、魂はその潤いを失ってしまう。だから目覚めてほしい。君の五感を、君の魂の感覚をすべて研ぎ澄まして、この世界のありふれた日常の中に隠されている美しさをもう一度発見してほしいのだ。そしてその感動を今度は君自身がささやかにでも表現してみるのだ。絵が上手でなくてもいい。歌に自信がなくてもいい。文章を書くのが苦手でもいい。そんなことは全くどうでもよいことだ。芸術に失敗などというものはないのだから。失敗を恐れて何もしないことこそが最大の間違いなのだ。どんどん不格好でもいいから試してみなさい。君の人生というキャンバスを恐れることなく彩っていくのだよ。わしが作った茶碗はな、一つとして同じものはない。歪んでいたり色がまだらであったりする。だがそれがいいのじゃ。完璧ではない。その一つ一つの個性の中にこそかけがえのない命の輝きがある。人間もまた同じことだよ。その時君はもはや単なる消費者ではない。宇宙の創造の働きに参加する尊い芸術家の一人となるのだ。その静かな喜びに勝る喜びはそうそうこの世にはないものだよ。わしはな、書も描き絵も描き土をこねて焼き物もそれはたくさん作った。光の閉ざされた牢獄の中ですらわしの頭の中は次々と生まれてくる芸術の構想で常に内側から光り輝いていた。それは単なる暇つぶしや気晴らしではないのだよ。わしにとって芸術活動そのものが神との対話であり生きる力そのものであったのだ。そしてね、この美を愛し創造を喜ぶ心はやがてごく自然にある穏やかな境地へと君を導いていくだろう。それが万類を愛するという境地だ。万類とは人間だけではない。動物も虫も魚も草も木も道端の石ころ一つに至るまでこの世に存在するありとあらゆるものすべてのことだ。君が毎日口にする米一粒野菜一枚、それらはすべて大地の太陽の雨の恵みであり多くの人々の労力の結晶だ。食事の前に静かに手を合わせそのすべての命にいただきますと感謝を捧げること、これこそが日常でできる最も尊い万類愛の実践の一つなのだよ。芸術の真に目覚めた心はそれらすべてのものの中に神が作られたかけがえのない美しさと尊い命の輝きを見出すようになる。そうなればこれまで敵や邪魔者だと思っていた人や 物事の中にすら何か大切な役割や神の仕組みを見出し、静かに感謝できるようになる。そうなれば、もうむやみに他者を傷つけたり、自然をないがしろにしたりすることなど、とてもできなくなる。そこには、ただ、深い感謝と、温かい愛と、穏やかな調和があるばかりだ。これこそが、わしの夢見た、弥勒の世の、本当の姿なのだよ。さあ、どうだろうか。わしが今日、君に伝えたかった、三つの真理。一つ、この言霊を、真根に優しく刻み、唱えてごらんなさい。二つ、我よしをそっと手放し、弥勒の世を打ち立ててごらん。三つ、芸術の真に目覚め、万類を愛してごらんなさい。この三つは、決して別々のものではない。すべては、愛という、一つの大いなる源泉から流れ出ているのだ。言葉を愛し、他者を愛し、世界に満ちる美を愛する。その愛の実践こそが、君を本来の光り輝く姿へと返してくれるのだ。良き言霊を唱えれば、心は清らかになり、我よしという心の影は少しずつ洗い流されていく。我よしという重荷を手放せば、心に穏やかなゆとりが生まれ、世界の美しさに気づく。芸術の心が育まれていく。芸術の心が育まれれば、万物を愛おしむ気持ちが生まれ、その口からは、ごく自然に、感謝と祝福に満ちた、美しき言霊が溢れ出すようになる。どうだろう。なんと美しい循環だろうか。これこそが、神が設計された、人間が最も幸福に、最も豊かに、そして最も神々しく生きるための、黄金の法則なのだよ。もう、自分を偽るのは、終わりにしよう。いつまでも、過去の自分に縛られている必要はないのだ。君が、今の、その少し息苦しい堂々巡りの人生から、本気で抜け出したいと願うのであれば、やることは、たった一つ、実践だ。今、この瞬間から、一つでもいい。できることから、そっと、始めてみてごらん。難しく考えることはないのだよ。今日、昨日よりも少しだけ、優しい言葉を使ってみる。少しだけ、人のために祈ってみる。少しだけ、空の青さに感動してみる。その少しだけの、ささやかな、しかし、尊い積み重ねが、やがて君の人生を、奇跡としか呼びようのない、光り輝く場所へと運んでくれるのだ。世の建て替え立て直しを、誰か特別な救世主がやってくれるのを待っていてはいけない。君が、君自身の人生の救世主となり、君の周りの世界を愛で満たすのだ。一人一人が、その持ち場で光を放つとき、この世界は、全体として、まばゆいばかりの光に包まれるのだから、君の内側にはな、神から授かった、無限の力が眠っている。世界を、丸ごと、温かい光で包み込むほどの、途方もない力がな。わしは、それを知っている。だからこそ、こうして、時を超えて、君の魂に、語りかけているのだ。さあ、顔を上げてごらん。窓の外の光を、風の音を、感じてごらん。君は、この壮大な宇宙の芸術作品の、紛れもない中心なのだよ。そのことを、一瞬たりとも、忘れてはならん。目を覚ましておくれ。そして、静かに立ち上がってみなさい。君が変われば、君の周りが変わり始める。家族が変わり、社会が変わり、国が、そして世界が、少しずつ、温かい光を取り戻していくのだ。その、偉大なる、世の建て替え立て直しの、最初の、尊い一歩を踏み出すのは、他の誰でもない。今、この瞬間の、君自身なのだから。さあ、行っておいで。君の人生という、最高の舞台へ、胸を張って、今日という日を、君の最高傑作として、生きてみなさい。わしはいつでも、ここから、君の魂の勝利を、祈っておるよ。今日のわしの話が、君の魂に、温かい火を灯したのであれば、チャンネル登録をしてくれると嬉しい。さらなる真理の探求、そして人生の穏やかで完全なる勝利を求めるならば、 また、この場所で会おうではないか。この魂の旅をさらに深めていきたいと願うなら、わしはいつでも君の帰りを待っているよ。
How I feel right now matters so much. How I feel right now matters so much because how I feel right now is about what I'm emanating, and what I'm emanating equals what I'm getting back. And so how I feel is really the only thing that really matters. How you feel in any moment in time is the only thing that really matters. Most humans don't know they have control over that because most humans, we love you so much, you are conditional in your now. The way you feel right now has so much to do with conditions that you are living, that you are comparing one to another, that you are remembering, that you are regurgitating, that you are emphasizing, sometimes unnecessarily, that you are exaggerating. You do. You exaggerate things to make points with others who don't get it. That's the thing that trips you up the most, you know. You're so determined that you're going to get somebody else to see from your point of view that you talk really a lot about what your point of view is, even if it doesn't serve you. Even if your point of view does not equal what you want. Oh, I had this terrible experience. Let me tell you about it. And in the telling you about it, let me practice the vibration of it so that I own it, so that for sure it's my point of attraction. And so there is a little bit of justifying and defending going on. There is quite a little bit of, there is an enormous amount of defending, that was funny, going on that isn't necessary. And we want today to help you sort of shake loose, to realize that you get to feel the way you want to feel and that the conditions don't need to matter. You can feel good unconditionally. And when you do feel good unconditionally, your point of attraction now is not about current conditions, which is the only way anything can change. If your point of attraction is about current conditions, then there's just a regurgitation of what is. So it's different faces, different places, but the same experience over and over again, isn't it? But if you can separate the conditions that are not pleasing you from the vibration that you're emitting, which means you're loving unconditionally, you're having clarity unconditionally, you're finding alignment regardless of the condition. And how are you doing that? Because you understand the laws of the universe, because you understand your point of attraction, because you understand law of attraction, because you understand focus, and most of all, you understand that how you feel really matters. And if you don't feel good, you do something about bringing yourself to a place of feeling better. Which brings us to the most important subject that we will ever talk with anybody about. And that is your path, or the path, your path of least resistance. Your path of least resistance and your path of most allowance are the same thing. For a while we called this gathering the science of deliberate creation. But you got too worried about that. Deliberate creation, the science of deliberate creation. So you'd hear yourself saying something and it would scare you. You try to suck it back before a law of attraction could get hold of it. You became fearful of your own thoughts. And so we began calling it the art of allowing. It is an art, it's a practiced art. The art of allowing myself right here, right now, to be a vibrational match to what I want, even if the conditions aren't showing themselves to me yet. I'm unconditional. I'm practicing the art of vibration about what I want, even though what I want hasn't shown itself to me yet. And when you get that, when you get that you can control your vibrational output, which means you can control what comes back to you. You can control your vibrational output when you are able to consciously separate what is from what you're offering vibrationally. For a long time, we've been saying to you that most of you, we love you so much, most of you offer most of your vibration in response to what you are observing. And that makes you, as a people, feel like you have to control what's going on out there. Because if you see good things, you feel good, and if you see bad things, you feel bad. So let's get rid of all the bad things, even though that's vibrationally not possible. This is a universe based on attraction. There's no exclusion. When you shout no at something, you're actually saying yes to something you don't want. vibrationally, because there's no yes or no in your vibration. There's just attention to it or not attention to it, you see. So when you understand the laws of the universe, and you understand, and this is the most important piece that you got to get for any of the rest of it to make any sense, you are source energy in this physical body, and the source energy part of you is active and emitting a signal. In other words, your soul is with you all day, every day. That source energy part of you is emitting a signal that law of attraction is responding to. So when life caused you to say, I don't like not having enough money, I want more money, the source part of you began emitting a signal about more money. So every time you notice you don't have enough, since source is noticing that there is plenty, there's a discord within you that you feel in the form of negative emotion. Everything is like that. Your inner being has an opinion about everything that you have an opinion about. And law of attraction is responding to both of those vibrational focal points. And that's what equals your guidance system. So you can tell when you're on point by the way you feel. You feel great. You feel clear-minded. You feel sure-footed. You feel fun, eager, alive, vital. You feel light-hearted and happy. You feel determined and sure-footed. You feel enlivened. You feel empowered. You feel invincible. You feel sure. And if you feel anything less than any of that, that means you're focused upon something that's enough off from who you really are and what you really know to be, that you are introducing resistance, which is the opposite of allowing, into the equation. And so in the moments of those negative feelings, you're not practicing the art of allowing. You're not practicing the path of least resistance. You're practicing the art of resistance and the path of most resistance, you see. So as we sort this out today, it'll be fun. We're eager to talk with you about anything that matters to you. Nothing is off limits. You will notice a perfect unfolding as we are playing together. And you'll also notice that sometimes someone who's sitting here will represent something that matters to you, and the dialogue that we will have will be just what you're looking for. So whether you actually sit in this seat and visit with us or not, it is our promise to you that we know where you are. We know what you want. We know what you have created vibrationally. We know that the life that you have lived has caused an expansion of you. And we know that the way you feel is about how well you are in any given moment in time, keeping up with that expansion. And so our job here today is to help you get hold of a piece of a thought that softens your resistance and helps you to find the path of least resistance. That's what any friend does for any friend. Amplifies the allowing part of the equation, which means no pointing out problems, no really being a sounding board for problems, just getting as quickly as possible to the point of what you want, and then finding the path for you of least resistance. And that's the most interesting thing about life, isn't it? Your path of least resistance isn't necessarily like anyone else's, and it isn't necessarily like your own was just a minute ago. In other words, the path of least resistance is about from where you are right here, right now, to where you want to be. And where you are right here, right now, changes. For example, let's say that you are employed and you are not happily employed. You don't like going there. You don't like being there. You don't like doing what you have to do while you are there. So it doesn't feel like the path of least resistance for you. So you've come to one of these gatherings and you've heard Abraham say, it's important to follow your path of least resistance. And you say, okay, I don't like being there, so I'm not going to go there anymore. And we say, well, let's talk about this before you turn in your resignation. Let's talk about if it really is the path of least resistance. In other words, we know you don't want to be there. You've just told us that you don't want to be there. But we also know that you have some financial responsibilities and some people that you are tending to, maybe financially. And so just quitting that job, is it really the path of least resistance? And by that we mean, would you feel better or worse by doing that? Well, in a abrupt moment, you might say, better, way better. I'd feel way, way better, way, way better. But you might have quitter's remorse because it really isn't the path of least resistance from where you are right now. Long term it is. Long term, you might say, I'm not always going to be here. That's the path of least resistance. Long term, you might say, this is temporary for me. That's the path of least resistance. But if you say, I'm leaving here today, and you don't have anything else figured out, that's not the path of least resistance. So what happens with so many humans is that they are trying to figure out what behavior is right and what behavior is wrong. And we say, it sort of kind of depends on where you are, doesn't it? In relationship to where you want to be. Aren't there a lot of factors that equal whether this is the path of least resistance or a path of more resistance? And really, can anybody else in the whole wide world tell you what your path of least resistance is? They can't, can they? They don't know what you've been living. They don't know what you've carved out. They don't know what you didn't like and what you did like and what you've created in this vibrational reality, which is where your inner being stands. They don't know what you have vibrationally evolved to, and they don't know where you stand in relationship to it, and they don't really know how you feel, even though you tried to tell them often how you feel. They don't really get it. They've just got their distorted perspective of how you feel. So as you begin taking a poll, what do you think I should do? 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 Then you give up your own guidance system and you lose your ability to sense your own path of least resistance, and then you're just kind of all over the place, making decisions that don't serve you with no long-term, obvious improvement in your life experience. But when you get it, that you've been carving out a very clear perspective of who you are, and that you are supposed to thrive, and you are supposed to feel good, and you are supposed to be happy, and that vibrationally speaking, that non-physical part of you is, and that you've got some habits of thought. You do. That's all a belief is. It's a habit of thought. It's a thought you keep thinking. It's a vibration that you practice. And law of attraction helps you practice it because you've been practicing it. And so that's what law of attraction brings back to you to practice some more. The more you observe, the better you get at practicing what is, and the worse you are at helping things move more to what you want. So you've got beliefs and perspectives about what is that are different from what you want, but are more dominant than what you want. And that's what's got to change. You can't keep looking at things the way you've been looking at them and feeling about them the way you've been feeling about them. If there's anything that we want for you, it's that you leave this gathering with a very clear intent that nothing matters more to you than that you feel good, which means nothing matters more to you than that you are aware, alert to your own guidance system, which means nothing matters more to you than your willingness to find the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance always feels better than the path of more resistance. And there's something that we'd like to say as we get started here. We're not ever going to ask you to find the path of no resistance. And we're not ever going to ask you to be on the path of no resistance forevermore. You came into a physical body because you want to sift and sort. We're talking about the path of lesser resistance. We're talking about using your guidance just to tell whether this thought is beneficial or not. And when you get good at this, you can tell. You can just feel when you're moving towards something that is of benefit to you and others, and when you're not. You have superb guidance because you have a cadre of non-physical energies consciously aware of you. Not just aware of you, but knowing you, knowing who you really are, and holding a vibrational tone, a vibrational beat, a vibrational signal that represents purely who you are. Ooh, that's such a good thing. And because that signal of who you really are is so powerful, and because law of attraction is responding to it in such a powerful, consistent, never-ending, never-yielding way, that creates a calling of you to that. That's what your path feels like. It feels like you going home. It feels like you being whole. It feels like you feeling good. It feels like you getting what you want. It feels like right path, right path, right path. Get the hang of this? So, path of least resistance and guidance system and momentum and law of attraction, all same subject, yes?
I just have problem with unworthiness and insecurity inside myself. This wasn't a problem before, like when I was younger. I used to be I didn't care what other people think, but slowly what happened was other people, what they thought, and the way I looked around, it just kind of made me feel insecure, and I feel kind of powerless because it feels like I've been born with things that I can't change, like what I've inherited from my parents. So I have this desire to do well in sports, but I have this belief that, genetic-wise, I don't have the ability, even though I do well at it, but it feels I can't take it to another level, if you know what I mean.
Well, it's certain that you cannot take anything to an expansive, fantastic level if at the basis of that which you are is a conscious awareness of unworthiness. We think it's a wonderful thing that you acknowledge that you are feeling sort of unworthy. We want to talk about what that is and why, and more important, what to do about it. So there's a lot we want to say to you, so just relax, and we're going to sort of unravel this in a way that you can really hear it. You said some really interesting things. First of all, you've come to a sort of conclusion that you must feel, or that you do feel, unworthy. And you've come to that conclusion based upon the way things are sort of turning out. Doing okay, but not as dramatically okay as you want. You also said something that was interesting and very common. In fact, almost everyone experiences it to some degree. And that is, in the beginning of your experience, you didn't feel that way. You felt more invincible, more sure-footed, like you could do anything. But then that feeling of confidence eroded over time. And the reason that it eroded over time is for a very simple reason. We're going to lay this out for you in a way that you will really see it. It's because you and almost everybody else you know, they're all doing it to some degree. You let what others were thinking about you and what they reflected back to you, you let that become your opinion, not realizing that they're not really holding you as any constant, steady object of attention. In other words, it's not their job to hold you. It's not their job to buoy you. It is the job of Source. It is the job of your inner being, and it is happening. But if you're looking for that love in all the wrong places, you're not going to find it. And it's a very common thing to look to those that you are living with for their appreciation and their approval, when what you're really wanting to do is feel your way into that alignment from the Source within you, who is always there, ready to cheer with you, ready to acknowledge the value of that which you are. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. It's just hard though, because everywhere you look, it sort of it affirms your unworthiness, if you know what I mean. If you turn on the TV, it's sort of like I'm stuck with a vibration that I can't change. I try really hard to change it as well. I try finding better feeling thoughts, but what happens is I just go straight back to where I started off with.
Well, you have to do it a little bit at a time. And you're right. We've talked about this quite a bit, and it certainly applies here, that most people are offering the majority of their vibration, which equals their point of attraction, based upon what they are observing. So when you say, everywhere I look, so what happens is, because you feel a certain way, that's the vibration that you're offering. Because that's the vibration that you're offering, that's what comes back to you. As that comes back to you, it confirms the feeling that you had, which causes you to offer the vibration more. And then, so in the example that we gave about Esther with the car hitting her car, same sort of thing. She's been feeling off her game. She's been feeling less strong and less secure than she has felt over time. She's been feeling sort of vulnerable. That feeling of vulnerability causes her to say things that are not things that she would normally say, caused her to rendezvous with a near accident, which she normally wouldn't rendezvous with, but given this new vibration, so here it comes. Then she commented about what a close call it was, and even though nothing happened at that intersection, under the bridge, entering the freeway, nothing happened, she found the words that said, if that guy who did that thing that he shouldn't have been doing had hit that other car, then likely we would have been involved in something even though we were innocent. So now here she is. She was feeling it. Now there's evidence. Now she's commenting on the evidence. Now she's feeling it more. Now she parks her car innocently in a parking lot, and while she's in the grocery store, someone hits her car. So now, see what's going on. So she was feeling that way. The manifestation confirmed how she was feeling. Now she comes out, and here is something she really doesn't want. There's a girl crying. Her father is there. He's enraged. The car is smashed into her car. Now you're observing something more. Now you're observing it. Now you're having a knee-jerk response to it. In other words, it's like letting what is control how you feel. But the question is, when did it start? In other words, when did this chain that led to that start? And the bigger question that we're really wanting you to hear is, what was the chain really leading to? In other words, what did it actually lead to? Eventually, Esther felt enough discord from it. When Esther got really, really mad at that sweet little girl, that's when Esther started rethinking it, because that's not who she is and it's not what she wants. She did not want to stand in that place of blame there. So then another intention kicked in, because whenever you know what you don't want, what you do want is part of the equation too. So in this story that we're giving you, at some point along the way, Esther made a decision that she was no longer happy feeling bad. And as she visited with us about it, and we helped her to see, this is not evidence of your vulnerability, this is evidence of your invincibility. A few years ago, some physicians were coming to a seminar. They always flew. They had their own private plane. And one day, they got into their airplane. They actually were landing at the airport near where they lived, out in the desert. And they misunderstood the direction of the wind and came in from the wrong direction. And their plane flipped over and caught on fire. And they'd been listening to Abraham recordings. And they asked us a week or two after, Abraham, our little girl has been listening to the recordings with us, that we create our own reality. And yet, when this has happened, she's confused. What do we tell her? Because our plane flipped over and caught on fire. None of them were hurt, just some very minor scrapes and a little bit of burn on the leg. And we said, this is not evidence of your vulnerability. This is evidence of your invincibility. Can you see what we're getting at here? In other words, who crashes a plane and walks away from it? They did. It's evidence of invincibility. And so this is the thing that we're wanting you to hear. So let's walk back through this again. First thing that happens is that you've got a feeling going on, and it doesn't matter where you got it. Esther had a feeling of vulnerability going on. It doesn't matter where she got it. The fact is, there it is, which is leading to light little experiences that are unwanted. Now, when those light little experiences that are unwanted come, she has the option of making another choice of thought. But the motivation wasn't very strong. It was easy to complain. It was easier to observe what was going on than to remember who she really is and to try to observe it through the eyes of her broader self. So she weakly observed it in a way that did not serve her. And so it's not like the universe is teaching her a lesson and saying, well, if you didn't like that, then you're really not going to like this. But it sort of plays out that way, doesn't it? So then she had a choice to think a different thought, but didn't. And so then law of attraction brings her something else that sort of matches that. What we really want you to hear in all of this is that you are always on your way to something wonderful, even when you are not enjoying where you are. Some years ago, we said, it's like going through a bad neighborhood on your way to something really fun. In other words, there is always something good that is out there if you will allow yourself to live it. But the feeling of vulnerability that comes, or the feeling of unworthiness that comes, is the simple byproduct of observing what is and just taking it as reality, just taking it as a done deal, rather than saying, well, this may be what is, but I choose to see it in a slightly different way. So, at what point do you decide to turn it around for yourself? You have to decide. For Esther, she didn't turn it around when the first near miss happened. She didn't turn it around. She could have. She didn't even turn it around when the car buried its nose in her car. She didn't turn it around. She let what was happening in the moment dominate the way she felt. She felt angry. She felt blameful. She felt vulnerable. She felt like not a good deliberate creator. She let what is control that. But as she sat with that emotion for a day or two and felt the awfulness of it because it so defies who she really is and what she really knows, then she began reaching for another way to see it until she came back into her power. You see what we're getting at? You have to decide at what point you're going to come back into your power. You can't let the circumstances that are surrounding you be the basis of your vibration. That really is what deliberate creation is. If people are just walking around, and most are, observing what is and offering a vibration that matches what is, and then getting more of what is, and then saying, see, I told you, and then creating more of what is and then observing it, and creating more of what is and then observing it, creating more of what is and then observing it, it's no wonder then in time you begin saying, I'm not powerful. Somebody else must be doing this to me because I would not do to myself these things that I do not want. But what we can feel with those like Esther and those like you, when you begin finding things that continually make you feel less than the powerful, authentic, pure, positive energy being that you are, it gets old real fast. And after a while, you begin saying, enough of this. I am determined that I am going to reclaim my power. And when you make that decision, it's always there for you, because everything that you've been living has all of this queued up, ready to deliver to you at any time. It's why you got chosen here today. In other words, the desire that you are holding, you're lighting up out there. Your desire caused a spike in your energy that was muted by your lack of ability to see who you are. But you were close enough to the clarity of who you are that you were visible in a big way to us.
I try really hard. This desire is really strong. When I do get negative emotion, it's very extremely strong. That is sort of like rage, if you know what I mean. And I try my best to just turn it the other way.
You know why? But here's the thing that we want you to acknowledge. If you sort of want something and it's sort of not happening, you feel sort of uncomfortable. If you really, really, really want something and it's really, really, really not happening, you feel really, really, really uncomfortable. So all you are expressing to us here is the power of your desire, to which you have more ability to align than you are giving yourself credit. In other words, you can do, and so can Esther, you can do a better job of lining up with who you are, moment by moment by moment. But here's the thing. When it's little things, there's no motivation, so you don't do it. It isn't until something bigger happens that it gets your attention and makes you acknowledge, I can do a better job with aligning with who I am. There isn't anything that you want that you can't have. If this time-space reality has the wherewithal to deliver the desire to you, it has the wherewithal to deliver the full-blown manifestation of it, with no exception. You will not be denied anything that you desire. So if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would say things to ourselves such as, I'm just defining who I am and what I want, and I'm going to do a better job of holding myself in happy alignment with it as I go along. There's nothing wrong with rage. It's just simply an indicator that you're not in the vicinity of what you want. But as you stand in that rage, all that happens, as you stand in that rage longer, all that happens is that you parlay stronger and stronger desires. So you know what you don't want and you know what you do want, but you don't line up with it. And so you keep observing what is, which you don't want, which causes you to launch more rockets, but you don't line up with it. But you keep observing what is, which causes you to launch more rockets, but you don't line up with it. So the crevasse, the variance, the gap between where you are and who you've become gets stronger and stronger. And that's that tension that you are defining as rage. You gotta turn in the direction of what you want. And we want to help you do that by convincing you that you can have all of that. You've just got to let go of the conversations about it not happening.